Hello, this is Lindy of Lindy's Magpie Reads.
And I'm Shawn, the Book Maniac.
And we are doing a conjoined Friday Reads. And actually, as you probably know, I'm Shawn, the Book Maniac, and this is Lindy.
And it's actually our Saturday Reads.
It's going to be, we're filming it on Friday night. It's our Friday night reads on Saturday, if we use the naming conventions of the lovely Greg of Supposedly Fun. So, we had trouble getting our Giller chat video up, so it went up Friday afternoon, and we're gonna have this for your viewing pleasure on Saturday. Without further ado, I'll keep my little stories about the week past on a personal note very brief. The highlight has been that Lindy is visiting me, and she arrived in Saskatchewan on Tuesday, and she's here until Sunday. We've been having a marvelous time. We were out at my parents' farm for several nights, and now we've arrived in the city. It's time to party. We know how to party. Friday Reads. Woohoo! But two sober notes that I'm not going to talk about at length, but just to acknowledge them, because I've had several comments from people that were concerned about me when the reports about this mass murder in Saskatchewan, the news broke worldwide. And so all of that happened quite far in terms of Saskatchewan geography from me, so I didn't feel in any danger, but it's very disturbing. The victims, and I'm not sure about the perpetrator yet, but the victims were predominantly Indigenous, and that just adds another layer of heartbreak to the story. And apparently the motivation was kind of wanting to get revenge on an ex by killing her entire family, and then random killings on top of that. And anyway, that's enough, but just that's been certainly on everyone's mind this week. I'm not even sure if there were two perpetrators anymore, but I'm not going to speculate. But certainly the baddest guy of the two, he was apprehended and then died. I think he swallowed a bunch of pills, but we're not sure. Anyway, so that happened. And then kind of on a complete other level of society and culture, Queen Elizabeth died. So those of you that are long-term followers of my channel know that I don't necessarily call myself a monarchist, but that I have kind of my own private mythology, but a deep emotional connection to the Queen. And I knew this day was coming, and it came, and it has been emotional. But I'm not going to, I'll maybe have more to say after the funeral, but just to acknowledge that yes, it's been on my mind. And Lindy gave me a big hug after the news broke. She's, I don't know if she wants me to say this, but I don't think she was nearly as deeply affected by the news, but interested in the news. You know, it's historical. It's one of those things that, you know, it's the end of an era. And so just acknowledge that and move on. Let's get to the books. We got lots of books to talk about. And I will start.
Go ahead.
I have one Bale to tell you about. And I have purposely kept my reading week details a secret from Lindy, just to get some candid reactions here. And I don't know if she's done the same, but we'll just see how it goes. I have bailed on my most anticipated read of the year, the new novel by Marra, Mercury Pictures Presents. I got 100 pages into this, and it wasn't that I was bored, but I was so frustrated, and I found the humor, when I compare it to the humor of his two earlier works, but especially my all-time favorite novel, one of my top 3 novels that I've ever read, A Constellation of Vital Phenomena, where the humor blended with the pathos so beautifully. Here, the humor was just jarring and irritating. It was just wisecracking humor. And I think it had to do with the fact that so much of this was situated in the film industry, and I think he was kind of going for replicating that kind of wisecracking humor in the films of this era, 1930s. Didn't work. I didn't get invested in the characters. It had potential. There was some lovely writing, but I got so frustrated by about page 100 and realized how little I cared and how many other books I would like to read that I bailed on Mercury Pictures Presents by Marra.
What a shame. Yeah.
That's the way the ball bounces. There's a lot of readers out there that liked this one a lot, 5-star reviews, but it certainly wasn't one for me, and I agreed with, well, actually I haven't heard Greg of Supposedly Fun's criticisms. it'll be fun, supposedly, to hear what he has to say. But I think he'll end up agreeing, and I just didn't want to finish. Not that I won't, in the galaxy of possibilities, pick it up at another date. But I think the chances are pretty slim. So, do you want to read it?
No.
Okay. So that happened.
Even before you said that about it, the premise of it just didn't capture my interest.
Yeah. It just didn't work. And even the parts that were about fascism and stuff, there was just something hollow in kind of a cheesy film way about the characterization of those characters that just didn't work for me. I mean, I kept rooting for it, wanting it to work, and by page 100 I realized this is not working. This is not like a constellation of other phenomena. So I think Anthony Marra needs to keep his fiction in Eastern Europe for it to be magical. So.
Well, I guess it's boring for an author to write the same book over and over.
Yes, well, better luck next time. I said in my Goodreads Bale review, he beat the second novel curse, but he succumbed to the third novel curse.
Oh, that's too bad.
That's too bad, but these are things that happen. So, Lindy.
Well, I did not bail on Proleterka. This is by Fleur Jaeggy, and it's translated by Alastair McEwen, translated from Italian. Shawn gave me this book to read.
To read only.
Yes,
to read,
it's
yeah.
staying in his library because I heard him talk about it, and it really grabbed my interest, and I enjoyed it. I don't think I enjoyed it as much as you did, but I did very much enjoy it. It was full of flags of passages, as you would have seen. And
Thank you for not writing in my book, Lindy.
I don't do that.
Yes.
And when I took the flags out and reread those passages, the story grew on me even more.
No, stunning writing.
It's an unusual style of writing.
To put it mildly.
Yes. Tends to be very short sentences, and it's told in present tense. The story is told from the viewpoint of a woman who's, I don't know, in her 50s or something, but she's looking back on a really important voyage that she took when she was 15 with her father. And she rarely saw her father, usually only twice a year for a short period. And this 2-week journey on a ship called Proleterka, she had more of a chance to get to know him, but he was quite ill, and she was 15 and interested in the young men on the ship, so there's other things going on with her. And that wanting to know her father seems to be something that's coming up in a lot of books that I've been reading lately, and so it's interesting to get different perspectives on that, a very common desire, I think.
Yes, and the way that it plays out, we're not going to go into spoilers, although it's probably impossible to spoil, but that she has a desire to get to know her father, but she also has so many, and he does too, psychological impediments to actually communicating with another human being.
Oh yeah. Like, she is so remote. Well, you find out from her upbringing. It's described, and it's understandable why she's so odd. So there's that distance in the writing too. Yeah.
And that kind of a story that's kind of cold doesn't usually work for me, but it really worked here, and I think that's why I loved it, because it was the kind of book that I don't usually connect with, but I did connect because there was something really emotional about reading the story and picking apart all the reasons why she was incapable of various natural human impulses that...
Well, I think because what's going on is she's damaged, but does really care for her father, just cannot express it, cannot access those emotions easily. Yeah.
Quirky, wonderful. I can't read more by Fleur Jaeggy.
Yeah. This was a hit with me, and Shorty September, if you're looking for a Bermuda short translated fiction.
That's right.
Recommend this one. It's
Hi, Heather.
It's only, 89 pages.
That's right.
There's a lot. She packs a lot into 89
it's
pages.
just compressed.
Yeah.
Beyond belief. I'm so glad you enjoyed it. And I'm going to do a quickie combo of 2 books, one of which I'm not going to talk about because there's a Zoom video coming, but I did finish the inaugural winner of the Booker Prize, P.H. Newby's 1968 novel, Something to Answer For, which won the 1969 inaugural Booker Prize, and I quite enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars, and I had a scintillating chat with Kieran of Katie Books about it, which will come to our channels or my channel in the coming weeks, so I'll save my thoughts. But although it's a very different book than Proleterka, I would say that I was impressed by how much it was not a Shawn book and how much I enjoyed it, but in a 4-star way. So I didn't love it, but I was really engaged by it, and it was quite an intellectual puzzle. And stay tuned for mine and Kieran's video coming someday soon. Although I've got a backup of videos. It might be it might be next month. Have you read this?
No, but I'm surprised that you're describing it as an intellectual puzzle. I like books that are intellectual puzzles.
It's very much of a plot-driven novel, and it's very much reminiscent of, it's kind of Kafkaesque, with kind of a hint of Muriel Spark, and that's all I will say for now. Something to answer for. In tandem with that book, I read a short work of history that I could get access to as an ebook about the Suez crisis, because this is set in Egypt during the Suez crisis, 1956, and I needed to bone up on what that was all about. So this work of 112-page work of history about it is called Suez Crisis, 1956, End of Empire and the Reshaping of the Middle East by David Charlwood, and I think I gave it 4 stars as well. It was better than a Wikipedia page, but only just. But it did give me the context that I was lacking, and that's all I'll say. But yeah, it's certainly accessible work of history. So those are my 2. What do you have?
Well, the other 3 books that I finished in the past week are all audiobooks, and they're all short. So we're still on the shorty September theme here. The first one I'm going to tell you about is We Had to Remove This Post by Hanna Bervoets. And this one is translated by Emma Rolt. And the audiobook is read by Christine Van. Does an excellent job. It is, if you don't know, it is like a workplace drama. The workplace is a very interesting one. It's a group of people who are content moderators for an unnamed social media platform. And their working conditions are not good. And what they're having to do is view violent and disturbing material and apply certain criteria on whether or not it will be removed. Like, if someone is showing them he's playing with 2 dead kittens, is that something that needs to be removed? What if the video that he played before on his channel showed him killing those kittens? But they're not the same video. Yeah. So, and that's the milder stuff. I found it disturbing, the amount of stuff that was described in the book. Because I don't watch anything that's going to be disturbing. Often there's a warning. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, good. I'm not going to watch this true event that happened that's disturbing. My imagination is enough for me to say, okay, cop killed person. I don't need to watch it. The voice in the story, it's a lesbian woman who's having an affair with one of her co-workers. And at the start of the story, we already know that she doesn't work there anymore. Some big thing has happened, so that's what's unrolled through the story. And it is all propulsive and unsettling, and I think it's important too.
Well, it's certainly a big topic in the world we're living in.
Yeah.
So you typically don't read those kind of books. What kept you going with this?
The voice and the curiosity, and it's short. So I knew, it was only I can't even remember how many hours long it was. Like
Short.
2.5 hours maybe,
Mm-hmm.
an audiobook. All of those things are in its favor for me as a reader. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, do you think I would it be for me?
Maybe.
Maybe.
What else have you got?
I'm going to tell you about two of the books that I started this week that I haven't nearly finished. They are both for Shorty September. The first one is Novel on Yellow Paper by Stevie Smith, a 1936 British novel or novella by a woman. Her name was Stevie Smith, and she is predominantly known for her poetry. Have you ever heard of Stevie Smith's poetry? I haven't either. I almost put it down because of the anti-Semitism, or borderline anti-Semitism, kind of creating humor out of the stereotypes. Like being at a party as the only non-Jewish person and kind of poking fun. And this was written in 1936, but I thought, I don't know if I can read this. There was nothing like vilely anti-Semitic, but certainly, playing with those stereotypes in a way that made me uncomfortable. I don't know if I will finish it, but I Googled some stuff about it and found several takes on it that, yes, garden variety anti-Semitism that was so prevalent in all of British society at that time, so you can choose, do you want to expose yourself to that or not, but also that there is a kind of a trajectory in the novel with all of that. So I think I'm willing to stick it out and see what happens by the end, because the rest of it is quite entertaining, a really unique voice, reminiscent of Barbara Pym. The reason I wanted to read it is because this was one of Barbara Pym's favorite novels, and one of the novels that inspired her to become a writer. And I can see the resonance between the voices, but that's all I can really say. I've been a little busy this week, and so I've read 20 pages, and that's what I have to say. It is entertaining. There's a cryptic quality to the voice where there's a lot of references that are just going over my head, but I'm turning the pages and I'm a little bit wary, and we'll see what happens. So this one is such a Lindy book.
Oh.
And this is How to Stay Alive by the Kenyan writer Shingai Njeri Kagunda. And I'm reading this for Shorty September. I'm also reading it for the Kenyan Readathon. And I'll put a link to the announcement video about that. And this, as if you watched my Bite Size Chats episode, is it 56 or 55, whichever one went up a few days ago, Bill from Nairobi raved about this book, and I ordered it immediately after he raved about it, and I have started it, and it is about... It was difficult for Bill to talk about it without giving spoilers, but let's just say that there is a queer theme, and if you kind of read between the lines of what I can say without spoiling it, it's probably going to spoil it. But the main character is a Kenyan woman, Nyokabi, and her brother has committed suicide, and one of her distant relatives, an old woman, gives her a potion that allows her to time travel and revisit moments in the brother's past and try to... I'm not sure yet, because I'm not far enough in, whether she is trying to save him or just understand what happened or whatever. So it's flashing back between the day of his funeral and all the grief that the family has, and her revisiting her brother at various stages of his life. And the writing is just gorgeous, and it's a book about time travel, and I'm buying into it so far. It's really quite powerful, and it's 97 pages, so I'm about halfway through, and so far I'm really glad Bill recommended it.
Yeah, but Shawn, time travel for you?
Well, I have read one other time travel novel that really worked for me, and that was, Bill and I stumbled trying to remember her name, the black lesbian sci-fi writer who's dead.
Octavia Butler.
Octavia Butler's, I'll look it up.
Kindred.
Octavia Butler's Kindred. I loved that one. That one really worked for me. So, and it's a very different story, but because that one didn't prevent me from really engaging with the book, and neither is this one. So I don't know if I'll finish it in time to pass it on to you, but it's a little book. I could put it in the mail to you.
Right.
It's from a press from Washington, D.C., Neon Hemlock, and they specialize in speculative fiction, rad zines, you can tell me about that later, and queer chapbooks. And Bill knows the author, so
very promising.
Yes, that one. That's my 2. What about your 1?
Well, speaking of speculative elements, this next one is by Mohsin Hamid, and it's called The Last White Man. So again, audio, this time read by the author, and it's, again, 2.5 hours long.
Does he read his own stuff well?
Yes, he does.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And the prose has a particular rhythm. Actually reminded me of Proleterka.
Interesting.
Instead of very short sentences, he's got quite long ones with many commas. And so there's a sort of rhythm of break, 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 which I also found with Fleur Jaeggy's writing.
Uh-huh.
And the author knows how to perform that. You know, he had his idea, I guess, of this kind of fable, allegory, because right from the first sentence you find out that the main character, his name is Anders, he's a white man who wakes up one day and his skin is a dark brown color. And then what
Dark
happened?
brown like me.
Did you read Exit West?
No, I didn't. I'll get into my thing about Mohsin Hamid in a minute.
Okay, because in that one, because you're talking about time travel,
Yeah.
and in that one he's got portals
That's
that
right.
you can go to a new place. So it's not really an important part of the book. It's fantastical, but that's not the point of it.
Yeah.
And in this book, Anders is only the first person to turn black. But the way that he feels about himself when he sees himself in the mirror, you know, and the emotions that he goes through, and talking to his boss, and what his boss has got to say to him when he sees him. His girlfriend, who's also white, his girlfriend's mother, and there's a relationship with his father, which has always been tricky, and the whole thing about masculinity is another important aspect of this book. Both Anders and his girlfriend Una have jobs that have to do with the body. He works in a gym, he's a bodybuilder, and she's a yoga teacher. So this focus on appearance and body and how we feel about ourselves and how we see other people,
It's all there.
I quite liked it.
And you were a fan of his earlier book stuff.
I only read Exit West.
You loved.
Definitely a fan of that. Yeah.
And I bailed on The Reluctant Fundamentalist, and I can't even remember why now, but I kind of hated it. So, and then I heard, to be honest, it was so easy to be influenced by Steve Donahue's hatred for Exit West that I just extrapolated from the fact that I kind of hated Reluctant Fundamentalist, and I never tried it. And then decided, I must hate Mohsin Hamid. But I am the kind of a reader that if I read one novel that I dislike or hate by a writer, I will never try another book. So maybe this is the time and place and the writer to try to break that pattern with.
Maybe. But yeah, don't try and force yourself. That's not fun.
I don't usually, not when it comes to books. That's not my pattern, but still.
Yeah.
Because I always think to myself, there has been so many times where I've read a book by an author that I really liked and then read another one that I didn't, but that I never give myself the chance to experience the opposite.
Yeah.
But even with books by an author where I loved one and read another one that I don't like, that I bail on, that I finish and hate, I will never read another book by that author. I loved one, hated another, still, I'm done. So, Dr. Lindy, what do you think? Do I need some medication for this weirdness, or what am I going to do about this? Comments welcome.
You know, it's not like there's a shortage of books.
It's not like there's a shortage of books. So I have so many books to talk about that if you haven't been paying attention, I've been doing 2 to 1 of Lindsay's. So these are my last couple books to talk about.
And if you're wondering if you watch my channel, usually I read about a book a day, and how come I've only got 4 books to tell you about? Well, I've been traveling, and I have got about 8 books that I've started and haven't finished yet, so watch out next week.
Next week's going to be a doozy.
Yes.
I have started this collection of indigenous fiction from America, Night of the Living Res by Morgan Talty, and I can't remember. Have you read this?
Yes.
Yes, and you loved it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I'm doing it as a buddy read with Heidi of My Reading Life. We're doing one short story a week. So we checked in last Monday on the very short first story last Monday, and it is called Burn, and it just knocked my socks off. It was so there's that word again, so compressed. There was so much humor in it, and it just set the tone. I understand that the stories are, at least to a certain extent, interlinked.
Mm-hmm.
This just set the scene, but had a standalone vitality. I think I liked it about 10 times more than Heidi, who liked it quite a lot, but I thought it was just one of the best, 4-page short stories that I've ever read.
Yeah.
2 men from the Penobscot tribe that is in what is now the state of Maine. One of them is drunk and falls down in the snow. He doesn't fall down. He lies down on the snow to have a nap, and his long hair gets frozen into the snow, and he can't move. And his friend, who's on his way home from buying pot, but he didn't have money to buy pot, but anyway, he finds him. And there's all this social stuff about that, all the cultural stuff, all the stuff about addiction and so on. But then woven through it is this just amazing humor. Because he's cut my hair so I can get the hell out of here. And then there's all the stuff about cutting your hair. And that's all I'll say about it. But I just thought it was pitch perfect. So this is starting out powerfully. Night of the Living Res by Morgan Talty. Any thoughts on this overall collection?
I really liked it, and there's a book on the Giller long list that I think is an excellent companion read, and that is Avenue of Champions by Connor Kerr.
Awesome.
So also an Indigenous author, also interconnected stories that talk about family relationships and the relationships with larger society. That
one was only 4 pages, but the next one I think is 30 or 35 pages, so I'll have to maybe get started on that one a little earlier than Monday. But Greg of Supposedly Fun loved it, and so far I deeply agree with him. The last one is what I replaced the Anthony Marra book with. And this was a book that I had on ebook. I got it on a whim because of the title. And it is a collection of queer short stories from Nigeria. The title is God's Children Are Broken Little Things.
Oh.
No. God's Children Are Little Broken Things by Arinze Ifeakandu. I looked on YouTube to how to pronounce his surname. You don't pronounce all the vowels in there if what I heard is correct, so I believe it's Arinze Ifeakandu, a young Nigerian queer author who is not hard on the eyes. Go check out his videos. And oh my God, the man can write. I'm only maybe halfway through the debut short story, but I'm already so excited about this collection, and it was such a bomb after putting down the Anthony Marra, because it was everything that I hadn't been getting from the Anthony Marra. The characters were vivid. I felt an emotional attachment, and the first story is about a man who has never, I don't know if he's ever explored, but he certainly never accepted his queer longings, and he is married to a woman that he loves very much, and he has a young daughter who he loves very much, and he's a store owner, and this gay Nigerian man comes in the store and starts hanging out at closing time, and eventually things happen between them, and it just captures the feeling of being caught. He's built a life that means so much to him, and he is now expressing deep longings and desires that he's never had, and he doesn't want to upend his life or betray anybody or walk away from anybody, and this has opened up a Pandora's box of desire and lust, and yet he's not satisfied because the gay Nigerian guy, this is the last thing I'm going to say, and I don't know how the story ends, so I'm not spoiling it, is that the gay Nigerian guy is rich and only interested in sex. And with all the confusion that our protagonist is feeling, he wants more. And there's just something so heart-achy about that is just grabbing me by the throat. So the first story has got me hooked. It's just wow.
That's a great title.
Yes. So those are the books I have to tell you about. Have you got one more?
Yes, I finished one more short children's novel. I think you would like this one. So this one is called A Kind of Spark. It's by Elle, McNicoll, and the audiobook is read by Katie Townsend. Elle McNicoll is a Scottish neurodivergent author. Well, this is her first novel. And her central character is 11 years old, and she's autistic. She learns at school about that in her very own town, witches were killed. Women who were accused of being witches were killed. And she gets really emotional about it. These women were basically women who were different, and she herself is different, and so she starts a campaign that their town put up a plaque to recognize that these women died. And so there's the bullying that happens at school, there's her family relationships. I found the story very moving and really well done. I think it came out in 2020. I'm not sure when it was published in North America. The original publisher is Knights of Media, which I hadn't heard of before. They're an independent publisher in the UK that focuses on diverse voices. Yeah.
And do you get a flavor of Scottish? Is there Scottish word vocabulary and whatever?
There certainly is.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, this girl loves words, and the thing that she regrets or that she's sad about is that her thesaurus doesn't have any Scottish vocabulary in it. Yeah, because there's some great Scottish words that she loves.
So I've now got 3 shelves up in my den, and this one I haven't had time to fill it. I've got some boxes that came in the mail that I haven't opened. Maybe Lindy will help me with that later. And I'm not sure if I trust her. Slip a few books in her bag.
You can trust me.
She'll give them back because she never keeps books. The bookshelves get put together for about 2 or 3 weeks after the oak smell permeates the room. I don't know if you can smell it.
I did smell it, yeah.
Yeah. Whereas the 2 that have been up for a couple months, you can't smell it anymore. But this new one, and there's 2 more still in the boxes over here that my nephew will put together, and then all my books will be up. But in the meantime, those are the books that I finished or started or whatever, or bailed upon this week. And Lindy too. Do you have no bails?
No bails.
What's wrong with you?
I'm choosing well.
You're choosing well. Very good. Well, Lindy, this has been fun.
It certainly has, Shawn.
And those of you out there in BookTube land, thanks for watching. And if you haven't checked out Lindy's fabulous, somewhat new, how many months has it been now? Oh, 8 months.
8 months?
8 months?
Yeah.
New channel, Lindy's Magpie Reads. You must go there immediately. That's it for now. Thanks for watching.